Do 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 do.
Hi, folks. I'm John. Okay.
Hey, John.
Hi, folks. I'm John, also known as DorkLovesSports on Twitter and YouTube and whatever other social medias. And this is one of my best buddies in real life. How you doing this morning, buddy?
Hey, guys. My name is Paul Bomba.
Paul and I are doing this show, Airwolf to Rewolf. This is going to be the 4th episode. The title of this episode is Bite of the Jackal.
Yikes.
So, Paul,
what do you think that means, John? With Bite of the Jackal? What does that symbolize in the grand scheme of the story here?
Well, I think spoilers. Mitch must be the Jackal, right?
Mm.
And Bite, I think, symbolizes ferocious attack.
It was, it was quite ferocious, but it was, well, let's get into it a little bit here. Let's talk about what's going on, because we've got quite a bit going on in this episode. It's pretty wild.
I must say, watching the episode, I'm going to bring the audience behind the scenes a little bit. Paul and I had a tough third episode. I'd say we got interrupted. We had to redo it. Not even sure how it's going to come out yet. But we really sat around and had like a post-production meeting. Said, we got to tighten this up. Got to do a little better. So I actually tried to take notes, and I think this was the worst episode to start taking notes because it was like modern paced, well written, like TV episode. This would fit in on like CW in The Flash. Like it was like boom, 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 payoff, 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 callback, callback.
Yeah.
It was very. It was. I thought it was very well paced. It was interesting, but it made it really hard to take notes. Right. So, but scene one, we come in cold open. We see a guy in overalls walking in, smoking a cigar. He appears to be a mechanic of some kind. They give us the music cue that he's probably a little maniacal.
Right? And he opens his toolbox, John. And what? How do we know he's a bad guy?
Pulls out like a little bomb-looking thing with a kind of
no, but he has a gun in his toolbox.
Oh, okay. I thought
so even before he pulls out the device, the explosive thing, whatever, you can see there's a gun in the tool. So we know he's bad news. But he's putting it on this old helicopter, this old jalopy of a helicopter,
a red and white helicopter that will become important. And this is what I was talking about as far as like a media callback. So they show you this helicopter, know what's going on. And then we switch to a scene that is with Dom and Stringfellow, right? And Dom's trying to talk Stringfellow, who I'm just going to call Hawk from now on, because they do it in the show and it's easier. So he's trying to talk Hawk into going to Acapulco with him, right? And Hawk's not having it, right? It comes out that the job is for a woman. There may be some romantic entanglements involved.
Queenie.
And we are trying, and it's all kind of supposed to be a blind date set up for Hawk, which seems like a really extravagant reason to, like, buy a vintage helicopter. But I guess Queenie's got it like that. So
Queenie is going to make house calls.
Yes, I'm leaving that. I'm walking away from that
one. She flies around a helicopter making house calls. Whatever that means. It's thin, John. The explanation here.
We're just trying to get somewhere. We're just trying to get somewhere.
we've got to establish that he's got to take this helicopter to Mexico.
Yeah.
I believe he calls it fun in the sun, fun in the what the hell does he call it? Fun in the sun, whatever.
What I wanted to note in this scene is that during the course of the scene, Hawk is like casually tinkering with the camera, like not even looking at it sometimes, just sort of like and by the end of the scene, just because Hawk is like the most competent human on earth, like he just hands Dom a fixed camera and explains how like something was just slightly aligned and it'll work fine now. And take a picture.
There's a reason for that, John. There's a reason why we have that in this scene, and I'll bring it up later.
Okay.
Let's just put that in the memory bank for now. Hey,
putting it back. Okay, so
yeah.
And Dom goes right. So Dom goes to get in the helicopter.
The very final line of the scene is a good one. And this episode actually is riddled with good lines, like quotable lines. But this one, String says, "Oh, it'll have to be next time," and Dom says, "Well, there may not be a next time." Right?
That felt a little, I don't know, like macabre.
So he walks out and it's like it's that night. He walks right out into the
and then we get the reveal.
It's that helicopter.
It's that helicopter. Oh no, he's getting into the sabotage helicopter.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it was like, yeah, come to this thing, come to Mexico with me. Come to Mexico with me. It's not even like come tomorrow, pack a bag, bring it tomorrow. It's like get in the helicopter right now. I'm leaving right now to go to Mexico. Come.
Yeah, I was
String is
surprised, but it does move the story along very quickly. Right.
It's been moved. Yeah.
So now we're going into the limo, right? So we come in the limo, and what my note says, we're clearly getting a bad guy message. Like the guy, my note says, creepy guy in suit is getting a bad guy message.
Well, our saboteur is calling him in a limo, right?
Yes.
And he's saying something like not quite cryptic enough.
Project 58285 is like, it's. So he lets the guy, basically, they don't want to make it too hard for your audience to understand that you clearly get the message that this guy is being told by the saboteur that the sabotage has been successful and that the helicopter is going to crash his plane.
And then we realize that we're actually in the limo with Archangel. So we turn around and we see that Archangel is in the limo with Mitch Bruck, right? This guy, Mitch.
Yeah.
So it's like he's like, oh yeah, it's nothing. It had to do with code 52809 or whatever.
Yeah.
And Archangel's like, oh, okay, cool. And there's something obviously going on with Mitch and Archangel, right? It's like a little bit of envy going on from Mitch. Archangel doesn't trust him.
Yeah.
And we got this new babe with Archangel. And he's saying, yeah, he might take my place someday.
Well, and then we have new faces, right? So creepy bad guy in the suit, Mitch, is a face that we recognize, right? He's been in a number of shows and projects. Played
by an actor named Scott Hylands, who had quite a prolific career as a bad guy.
And then the actress is
Suzanne Reed. Her last credit was in Baywatch in 1993.
Okay,
but she was a Knight Rider.
Was this a one-episode off for her, or is she recurring?
No, it's a one-off. Okay. It's a one-off. It seems like we're getting like an Archangel hot assistant of the week. Yeah.
So
she's not the only babe that appears in this episode that has a thing for String.
It appears that every woman that meets String has a thing for the Hawk. Right. He seems to exude something that just some magnetic thing that just attracts anyone. Yeah, any heterosexual female in his presence is doomed. But he can't love them because then what happens? They tragically die.
They all die. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just eating my Italian ice. Okay, my energy level is anyway.
Hey, this is reality, folks. We gotta do a thing. So they drop Mitch off. The limo drops Mitch off at the airport. He gets out, heading off, and we come back into Laura and Archangel, and lo and behold, they recorded the phone call.
What's amazing about this, John, is that Mitch had to go to the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he needed an update from the saboteur.
Mm-hmm. And the saboteur made a call of that limo, which you would assume was Archangel's limo, or the first limo.
Well, in any case, this is very poorly covered up, right? Because Archangel immediately has it recorded, and they're like, well, this originated from Van Nuys Airport. So the guy who did the sabotage called Archangel's car phone to give Mitch an update.
From the payphone at the location where he did the sabotage.
Right.
It's not good work.
It's not. It's shoddy. It's shoddy sabotaging.
But this lines up with the story later, right? Because we'll come back to this point. This actually makes sense in the story.
It does. It does. And we also know that what's amazing is that at the very end of the scene where Archangel's like, turn this limo around, we're going to Van Nuys Airport. He says something to Laura, which is, what the hell does he say? Salsa and sunshine. How does he know? How does he know that they're going to Mexico?
Archangel always knows.
He knows, right?
Wait, no, to be fair, that's probably where Mitch was flying, right? Like, so he knows that's where.
Yeah, he was taking a flight. He was probably, I don't know which airport over there has direct flights to Tijuana or wherever he had to go, but it seemed like he was in Baja. He was in the Baja region of Mexican California. According to when we see the maps later, we know he's in Baja.
Okay. And there's a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more like sudden flash to completely new scene in this episode and sort of storytelling with the camera. We've already talked about the reveal of the helicopter and then the reveal that Archangel and Laura were in the limo with the creepy bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's interesting. I think they're doing some fun things. So now we come to Dom crossing over into Mexico. So he's in the red and white helicopter and he's on the radio talking to.
Yeah, he's spouting off a lot of like pilot jargon. It's a very jargony moment for Ernest in this.
And then a little hand reaches out for a sandwich that is on the seat next to him, and it is a stowaway. And it is clearly and immediately recognizable as a young Shannon Doherty.
It's a 13-year-old Shannon Doherty, who is adorable, by the way. She's so cute. So cute. And you know what she really reminds me of, like in this at this age, which is it's kind of weird because like later in her life she doesn't remind me of this actress, but she really looks like Jennifer Connelly.
Okay.
She really reminds me of like a young Jennifer Connelly with like the dark hair,
light complexion,
and a very light complexion, and like those kind of like young Jennifer Connelly kind of had almost like chubby cheeks. I mean, she was, in the words of my friend, my friend Anthony, she was very voluptuous. But I mean, clearly Shannon is a little baby at this point, but she's still something about her really remind me of Jennifer Connelly, like a young Jennifer Connelly. No comment, huh?
No comment. So we watch the countdown in the device clicking down as they interact, and they flash back and forth, and it goes to 0. There's what I would say a small explosion, and in the framework of explosions. And Dom manages to coax the helicopter down to a relatively safe landing. A lot of talking to the helicopter like she's a woman, trying to settle her down on the way down.
Get your nose down, baby. Get your tail up, baby.
Yeah. A lot of coaxing that, probably does nothing, but I think a lot of people probably actually do. So, hey. And so then they, wait, I got to keep going here. So please indulge me. We now come to my favorite moment of this episode.
Really?
The greatest so far moment in Airwolf, as far as I'm concerned. Right? Because as they hit the ground, we get like a rack zoom into Hawk cutting wood. And he like looks up and he just knows. So now Hawk is psychic. Yeah. This is the reveal that Hawk has a psychic connection to Dom because he just knows.
This is the Princess Leia escaping Bespin moment in the Millennium Falcon where she's like, "Oh, Luke, we gotta go get Luke," And Lando's like, "Huh?" And they're like, "Okay, let's turn around." So then Luke is like dangling off the thing. Like, what is going on with Hawk? So Dom crashes and Hawk, he has a moment. He has like he has a feeling, but notably, John, in this moment. Not only does Hawk have his moment, but the dog Tet has his moment as well. Like Tet knows too.
my read on that is that's his connection to Hawk. We already know Hawk exudes, right? Like that is a powerful presence. So that was just the dog feeling his master's distress.
Okay, that's a fair interpretation.
Thank you. I've had to work on that one.
I don't subscribe to it, but you know.
So you think the dog is also psychic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
I don't hate that. So we go right back to Dom.
Well, they've talked about how emotional. I don't think this supports my idea, but they do talk about in prior episodes how the dog has emotions and worries about his master and stuff. So,
thank you. I appreciate that.
And so, but Shannon Doherty in this scene, I tell you, man, she is such the classic like '80s kid. She's got all the lingo. She's wearing the baseball cap.
Yeah,
it's almost like the little Asian boy in Raiders of the Lost Ark or whatever. What the heck is his name?
Short
Yeah, sure. It's like she's got that kind of vibe, and she's so good at it. She's so good in it. It's not surprising that she kind of grows up to be like a household name, because to be honest, like, yeah, her lines can be hokey and her scenes are a little hokey.
Yeah.
But she totally like hangs with Ernest Borgnine, who pretty much no one else in the show does. Right? Am I right? Or am I just like giving her way too much credit here?
No, she doesn't. She's not. You don't see the strengths with her, right? Like, it doesn't look like she's acting. She's natural on camera. In that moment, I can get lost and think that it's a helicopter dude talking to a stowaway. I can't explain this other than, like, some people who are performing, you are conscious that they are acting, that they are pretending to be someone that's other than themselves.
Like who? Like Jan Michael Vincent?
Well, yes, I believe he's a good example of that, but I think it's not uncommon, and it's also not really. It doesn't super hurt the tone of the show.
It's not always a deal breaker, right? It's not.
Yeah, I mean,
like hyperrealism. It's like you could look at a Picasso and enjoy it. You could also look at a Rembrandt and enjoy it. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I am not saying that Jan Michael Vincent is a Picasso when it comes to his acting. I'm just making a point about realism, I suppose.
They have a really cool little interaction, and they have several during the course of the show. Ernest Borgnine becomes a very sort of like grandfathery character to her. It's pretty sweet.
Not according to Stringfellow, but yeah, she.
They almost made it. It was so close. They almost had the relationship between an adult male and child and didn't make it creepy. Like, they almost did it, and then
just about.
Yeah,
and then
it was so close. And then we're gonna make it awkward. Okay, same thing I had. I was so upset when that happened. I was like, oh. All right, later. All right, so we're back to Shannon and Dom. We go back to them they're still in the crashed helicopter. It's teetering on the edge of a canyon or gorge. He has a head wound, which is not bleeding enough, but that's nitpicky. It looks pretty good. The makeup's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. And she's like, let me dump some water on him, wake him up. And I was thinking, if you guys are like crashed in the wilderness, like, why are you wasting water, yo?
That's the Eagle Scout in you, baby. You just like, no,
she could have just like shook him and been like, hey, wake up, old man.
Yeah. Don't use a diminishing resource at that point.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a minor action sequence as Dom gets the child out first, so we're reinforcing that Dom's a good guy.
Good guy.
And
murderer, commando.
Commando.
Russian operative killer, but good guy. Still a good guy with the kids,
Gets her out of the chopper, jumps out behind. The chopper teeters, but actually does not ultimately fall into the gorge, which was important.
We lose a wheel into the gorge. A wheel. We do.
That's key, and I kind of missed that the first time through too. So now we're going back. We're at the cabin. We're with Stringfellow, Laura, and Archangel. And Laura plays what I have dubbed the bad guy recording to Stringfellow. And it's revealed that this has basically all been a setup to get Dom there to make Stringfellow go in for him. I said I was going to call him Hawk, and I just keep calling him Stringfellow. So to make Hawk go in after him, and then get Airwolf.
I mean, we know it's a trap.
We know it's a trap.
Archangel knows it's a trap. String knows it's a trap. Laura knows it's a trap.
But we have a big moment.
We do.
We do have a big moment as he's like, I'm going, and he's like, you can't let, and Archangel's like, you can't let him get Airwolf, and he's like, well then come with me.
And Archangel is like, what we don't see is that he reaches into his pocket and he checks. He checks in his pocket, and he realizes he has everything he needs in his pocket. So he says yes. And John, what is that thing in his pocket?
I don't know what the thing in his pocket is. I'm very
the thing in his pocket.
Next, but
the thing in his pocket, John, is a white eye patch.
He needed that white. Well, I mean, of course he needs the white eye patch. Come on. But now we go to an actual reference back to things that have happened earlier on the show.
Yeah.
When Archangel says, well, Laura's a great pilot, because all of these beautiful women with him always happen.
They're flying the helicopter. They fly him.
And spies, right? So she is another one, apparently. And
dancers.
And, well, we don't know if Laura's a dancer yet.
Angela was a dancer, and Gabrielle was a dancer, right? So it would follow.
Speaking of Gabrielle, we have her name checked here. She is brought back up when Stringfellow says she can't come. And because Gabrielle and Archangel immediately super gives in, which he super should in that moment. But we're back to that place where it's like, but then why are you inviting Archangel? Because it was Archangel's fault. So why are you like it's just, I guess in a way he's saying, well, it's cool if Archangel dies, and I don't want Laura to die. But,
yeah.
But it's I'll say it's interesting. But it was effective. It was an effective scene. Like, and if you were, I imagine it was close enough that like people were still mindful of Gabrielle, and like that was. I remember if I were watching this now, that callback would make me feel better about the show. Right? I'd be like, okay, like we're living in a world where like things still matter and have consequences. Like I like things like that better, generally. But we now go to Mitch. He is, as my notes say, I think, bad guying it up.
Big time.
He's very detailed. He's the smart bad guy. He's not emotional. He's setting the trap.
Got a plan.
He's ready. And I do like, he's not the cartoonishly arrogant bad guy that we've met so much in the last few episodes. Because when they say, like, are you ready? He says, you can never really be ready for a man like Hawk. There's a respect for the opponent that I like.
It's like preparation only becomes evident after the fact, or he says something to that effect. Like
he's very sort of a character. He is an archetype of a villain, right? He's an archetype of a bad guy, very much so.
Yeah.
So we can kind of move through this part kind of fast. We go to Archangel and Laura waiting.
Well, let me just say one thing, John, before we go. We are introduced to Colonel Arias, right?
Is that okay?
So, like,
good, because this guy missed me completely. Like, he slid past my head. So,
and he's kind of playing devil's advocate with, he's basically saying, look, I only have a couple of planes available. I don't really have a whole lot of men available. You set this thing up, you're gonna have to deal with it yourself. And he's like, well, I've got helicopters. I'm cool. Let me do my plan. Just stay out of the way. And Arias is like, okay, all right, I'll stay out of your way, right? So I just think it's important because we're gonna see Arias 2 more times here.
Yeah, and very, very, very importantly, or at least like very centrally featured visually for.
Oh yeah, totally.
So yeah, he's important to the episode. I'm glad that you caught up on him because I realized at the end, like I think in my notes, he's like.
Yeah, and through my, looking him up, Julio Medina, the actor who portrays Elias, seems to have like an extensive extensive career.
Oh, that's cool.
In Spanish language television. Yeah, so it looks like he's Colombian. He's a Colombian actor, and he's got an extensive career as a Colombian actor, which is cool. IMDb just asked me how would I rate Bite of the Jackal? 9 stars. Yeah, 9 stars, definitely.
Yeah, so
not 10. Not 10, but 9.
10. Not quite 10.
Yeah.
Maybe so. Maybe if you don't love as much as I do the psychic Hawk reveal, you might knock it down a star for that, right? Like, so that would be fair.
No, I think what makes it a 9 for me is the Hawk interaction with the salt miners in Mexico.
Okay. We go to Archangel and Laura waiting, and they're worried. She's worried Hawk's not going to come. Archangel's not worried. And I wrote this in big notes because they do it like 3 times this episode. So Hawk drives out into the secret cavern and gets Airwolf, and we hit the theme. The theme, Paul.
So we get the Airwolf theme. We're getting some good music. We're powering up the chopper. We're getting out. Oh my God, it's exciting.
Airwolf. What I have is serious Hawk face, because we got the shots of just him in the thing, just like just real serious. Do you remember what Laura's reaction is when she sees Airwolf fly over?
Yeah, I do. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
and that seems to be everyone's reaction. Is what Archangel says.
I have it written right here, Paulie. Yes. So then we basically go to Hawk and Archangel flying to Mexico.
And this is where Archangel has a costume change here.
Oh, when he goes to the white?
He puts on the helmet, he goes to the white eye patch.
And basically, so do you think the white patch has some importance to his ability to actually function as an engineer? Or is it more of a...
It's a big question for me. It's like, to me, this is one of those things that we're going to have to explore further. Like, I want to see, maybe the white eye patch confers some piloting ability, or is somehow made to withstand the rigors of flying in some way.
Maybe it's just cooler because it's very hot in the back of the helicopter. So it's okay. Well, the mystery may never be solved, but we're going to work on it. The important thing that happens in here is Dom is like, why aren't you just using all of your resources to go and get the girl and Dom back so we don't have to do this and risk Airwolf? And this is where I think Mitch being really crappy at being a bad guy lines up with the story really well, because Archangel's reasoning is, I've let it go too far. I haven't caught him like I should have. Mm-hmm. So I need to do this sneaky, basically, right? Like, I can't use the company's resources because it'd be admitting I failed. So that's why I thought that lined up, because you really should have caught this guy, because he doesn't seem very good at that part.
and String's response is politics,
which is a callback.
Politics.
He says that I think 3 times in the episode, maybe twice, and then the third implied politics is right at the end, how we end, but he doesn't say it. But we can get there.
Politics.
So we're back to Dom. He's pounding stakes into the ground, securing the old chopper so it doesn't fall into the gorge. And we see competency from Phoebe, as played by Shannon Doherty. She is climbing back up with the tire that you pointed out fell into the gorge. She went and got it without Dom even realizing she was gone.
Right. Yeah. He said he didn't realize she was gone. He was worried about scrambling down there. He said. Yeah. So she did that.
Yeah. So she's really helping out, showing her worth, and then we got 2 choppers coming in, and Dom gets the flare gun, shoots some flares.
He gets a flare out there, and she's excited. She thinks they're being saved, and
first the audience knows, because we switch, and my note is, oh no, it's Mitch and he says lock and load, and then Dom. Then we go back to Dom, and there's Borgnight's like, I got a funny feeling, and then Dom, who, to be fair, we have established as an action star and an athlete belying his age and body type.
Absolutely.
dodges machine gun shots.
Yeah, John, I thought about this, and I don't think at any point they were actually shooting at him. I think it was all warning shots because later he gets on the loudspeaker and he's like, "You're our prisoner."
Yeah.
Right? He's like, "You're a prisoner, and if you leave this perimeter,
we kill you. Basically,
we'll kill you." Right? So I don't think they meant to kill him because they want him alive because they want the bait for the wolf.
Yeah, 100%.
For the string,
100%.
for the hawk.
I think you're right.
And we're about to realize that, hey, we've got a blip moving at Mach 1.
Importantly, the two chopters land and a bunch of people jump off, and then they go back up into the air, which is important to the trap, right? Because as you point out, we got a marginal contact at 23 miles coming in very fast.
Right.
So then we switch to Airwolf coming in hot. We hit the music again.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the bad guy pilots says,
"Oh my God." Yep.
But oh no, the ground
Bravo chopper pilot says, "Oh my God." But this all happens very fast because they're flying in. Archangel is like, "Oh, you're going too low," and then there's a guy with like a law on the ground.
Yeah, there's the ground forces attack Airwolf with a
he shoots Airwolf and is like, boom, he hits him right away right in the rotor.
Dom says, "You should never have come for me." Which, really, Dom? I mean, like, he was coming. I don't know, like, whatever.
And I think this is pretty cool, right? Because you have some pretty neat practical effects here of the helicopter flying around with a smoking rotor. That's pretty neat.
And then my note says Hawk does crazy shit with turbines to get away. So in effect, he turns the helicopter into a jet and gets away that way.
And Archangel's like, "You're gonna rip the rotor off." He's like, "No." He's like, "Trust me." And then he does like a weird countdown. He's like, 5, 4, 3. He's like, "What are you counting down? Just hit the button, man. Just go, boom, go, get out of here." Well, it's like 5, 4. It's like, imagine if you're standing at a urinal, and you look over at the guy next to you, and you're like, 5, 4. Like in the airport, "Hey, buddy." He's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, 5, 4, 3. How long can I keep going with this? I'm sorry. That's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about that fictional urinal situation.
Okay. I'm gonna move us on after the urinal. Everyone, you're welcome for that image. So we go to Mitch, and Mitch is explaining to Colonel. Remind me again.
Arias.
I picked the field of play, so I will wait for them to return, and I will use the leech,
which is let me get the quote right here. An air-to-air missile of the Sidewinder variety. That's a mouthful.
Which is basically designed to impact into the vehicle it's shot at, but not destroy it, and then open its nose and release some sort of gas, toxin, something to incapacitate the people within 1 minute, and incapacitate the crew in the helicopter within 1 minute, giving them the Sophie's choice of land or die, or land or crash.
Right, either pass out and crash or do an emergency landing.
Yeah. So
and Rice is like, Sidewinder variety. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Because they're discussing the merits of like going out and finding Airwolf right now. He's like, no, he's gonna go make some repairs. He'll come back.
Yeah.
He's like, in this country, he could be anywhere. There's salt mines everywhere.
Yeah.
Little do they know that they're literal. The Airwolf parked like less than a minute away, like in the next little area. Because well, I'll explain that later. But my God, okay.
I understand the practicality of how that has to be the way it is. So now we get the soldier watching Dom and Shannon, and we have to reveal that Dom thinks he can fix the copter.
Oh yeah. Of course he can.
But we have a very sort of heart-wrenching scene where Shannon asked Dom, do you think these guys are going to kill us?
Yeah.
And Dom's like, no, 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 no. And then we get the story, Shannon or Phoebe's tale of how she became ended up in the foster system, and has run away to find her father, and we learn that her mother is deceased.
Yeah, and she's got a dress with her. She's gonna wear the dress, and anyway, it's sad.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they do a cheat where like Dom starts telling her the story of Airwolf.
He's like, do you have a minute?
But like the whole story, like the one we don't know about, like Stringfellow's dad and the brother and everything, and then they fade away so the audience doesn't get to hear it.
Yeah. yeah, and they fade away to like a dark, like farm.
Yeah, it looks like a farm.
Pigs and goats and stuff. And it's like, and Archangel's like, why are you gonna land? He can't even see. He's like, don't worry, I'll put it down, bro.
Yeah, he's got.
And he like puts it down among the pigs. They get out of the chopper. They walk around. He's like, where are we in this country? They must think we're a UFO or something.
Yeah, but Stringfellow identifies the necessary equipment to repair it, and
he finds a little mini forge. He's like, this is good, man.
Everything we need.
What I wanted to say about this earlier was that, the camera tinkering thing, I think is related to this scene, right? Because it's like we know that not only is String a competent pilot, but he's also someone who could fix electronics and stuff. So it would follow that because he can fix the camera, that he's able to repair a rotor from a helicopter that's been hit by a surface air missile.
And I would say that was effective writing because I honestly didn't really question it. I was like, yeah, Hawk seems like he'd be able to do that. That's fine.
He's like, let me get this hammer and hammer out this rotor. But Joaquin Santos, right? And his sister Miriam, and they're upset, right?
Yeah, well...
the animals are scared, and Miriam says, the few chickens we have will probably never lay another egg. That's
and we have Archangel and Stringfellow try to speak Spanish. Archangel is bad. The Stringfellow is okay, and the leader makes harsh fun of Archangel's accent. Don't ever speak Spanish again.
Don't speak Spanish to me.
And Stringfellow, and he says to Stringfellow, he's like, you were better.
Yeah, you're right. And we get into this whole weird thing about Stringfellow's sense of humor, and they start to like him, and they start to giggle. And his sister Miriam is really making eyes at String. It's like.
But I thought she was good. I thought she was. I mean, she was. It wasn't a dynamic character. Like she had effectively one role. One role in the show, and one she was there for basically to be really pretty and be immediately taken with Hawk.
Yep. Right? As women tend to be.
As every woman he meets is, yes.
And every guy notices as well. So it's like Joaquin is so focused on String and his sense of humor that he's also able to pick up on his sister, who is standing behind him.
Yes.
On her attraction to him. Yeah. Without ever looking at her.
And we get
amazing.
We get a fun Hawk and leader scene here. And Hawk asks him why they live out there. They're miners, and he wants to know why they live out in the middle of nowhere. And the leader explains that they have freedom and they're women. And he asks Hawk. It's very insightful.
We laugh with our children and we love our women. Yes, and we love our wives and laugh with our children. It's nice.
Yeah, and the leader asks him,
Joaquin. His name is Joaquin.
Joaquin asks him, "Do you have that?" And he notices. Great insight check on Joaquin, because he immediately understands that Hawk does not have that.
Yeah,
that he has hit on something, and basically at that point he says, "When you're done with your thing, why don't you come back hang out with us? My sister likes you. You guys could do a thing." And Hawk says, "You get right to the point." And the leaders, I like the leader. I like Joaquin. He says, why waste time, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we get this like kind of montagey, like let's build this chopper thing, right? Don't we? Or is that later? Then jump ahead.
Wait, you jumped ahead a little, but there's a little bit more interpersonal stuff I like to go through because at this point we get that Joaquin points out that his sister is nice, but a pain in the butthole, right? So that's
a pain in the burrow, yeah. And, which is a translation for ass, the animal, and ass, but. That I don't know if that translation really works, John. Does it work? You speak Espanol. You tell me.
Don't start lies. I do not speak Espanol. I took Spanish in high school.
You're Puerto Rican. I don't know.
But I'm partly. But that goes to the whole family thing. We could get into that later once we get to know each other better, audience. But not right now. I like Archangel comes in, right? Archangel.
All I know, John, is that you had jars of coquito in our fridge for like months at a time. I'm like, what are you doing with this coquito?
Parts of the culture were passed out, but I wasn't allowed to learn Spanish because my dad didn't want me to be able to insult him without him knowing.
You don't need Spanish for that, Dad. Okay, coquito boy. Okay.
All right. But Archangel. And Joaquin is making fun of Archangel, right? And he's like, he flies, he fixes the helicopter. What the hell do you do? And Archangel says, I pay. And
that's right.
And they all have a laugh together. And now Archangel's friends too. And Joaquin says he does have a sense of humor, and they all have a hearty laugh together.
And Archangel at this point is wearing the black eye patch.
Oh, see, I love that you're on this whole the switching thing. So it's definitely a flying thing.
It has to do with being in the helicopter. He's got to put the white eye patch on to be in the helicopter.
So now we do finish the thing, and we do have the one necessary beautiful woman gazing at Hawk, and then he looks back down at her and kind of gives her a little smirky thing, and then it's very sort of sweet, and she loves him because they've known each other for 10 minutes. But now Airwolf's going to take off again. So what do? We hit the music. Right,
it's glorious. We get like a over the shoulder shot of the helicopter's like wing onto the newly repaired rotor, like spinning, and all the farmers, they just like run to their little jeeps and
they're in, they're coming,
they're what are they doing? We don't know what they're doing,
but they're in.
They're down, man. They're like, let's go, and the Airwolf flies off, And the Jeep is like, there's two, they got like two, like, I don't know, they must have just got like picked them up off the lot at the time. They were like their typical bad guy in the A-team kind of, U.S. Army issue Jeeps,
Yeah. It was probably a company that was what they did. They supplied those to these shows, like.
We're bringing you the helicopters. You want us to bring some Jeeps too? Yeah, bring Jeeps. Jeeps look good.
So now we go to the soldier watching Dom fix the hell. Well, Dom putting on performance.
What is he? He says something stupid, doesn't he? The soldier.
Yes, he totally buys the act, right? So Dom does this like, oh, I'm mad I can't fix the helicopter thing, and he walks around. The soldier completely buys it, and I guess they won't be taking off anytime soon or something dumb like that. It's
right.
He has a line which is based. The only purpose is for the audience to know that he believed the act of Dom, which seems completely unnecessary because we're going to know that when he takes off, but whatever.
There's very little subtlety in.
It's not a subtle. It's
like
bang, bang, bang.
It's like we're going to spell out all the bits and pieces here, so the audience is going to definitely get it. I don't know. A couple of days ago, I was watching House of the Dragon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters says, "Oh, the stranger looms heavily over our family." So I turned to my wife. I'm like, "Huh?" And she's like, "Who's the stranger?" I'm like, "Who? What?" So then we stopped it. And we rewound it, right? And she's like, "The stranger looms heavily over our family." And I'm like, "What?" Now, I needed to go and rewind it twice before I realized, oh, the stranger is one of the 7, which is in the world of Game of Thrones. There's 7 deities that kind of control the lives of men.
Okay.
The stranger, the mother, the the crone, the blah blah blah. So there's 7 of them. One of them is the stranger.
Okay.
We didn't have that luxury in 1984. We couldn't like stop and like rewind and be like, what just happened? We couldn't pause it. Be like, huh?
We couldn't Google it. We couldn't look
right.
up the Pantheon.
So they needed to be effective in their communication, and they're like, these guys are going to buy this, so let's give this day player a line.
Yeah.
So the audience knows that he buys it, and I can respect that.
Yeah.
I know it seems hokey now, but that's at the time. I think it makes sense in storytelling. You're making sure your audience understands your story. Anyway, I'm going to stop here.
No, I think it's actually a well-written episode. I think it's, as I said at the beginning, I think it's well-paced, and I think that it is a very A to B story, right? They take you understand everything that's going on, but it's a good version of that. Like, they have the excitement. It's a show about a helicopter. They don't necessarily need the intrigue. And, like, I feel like sometimes when they suffer is when they try to do the other stuff.
Well, I was trying to explain it to somebody. It was like, what's Airwolf about? I'm like, Airwolf is actually a story about family dynamics that's like wrapped up in like a helicopter action movie. Like, this whole episode is a family dynamic episode, right? We're talking about this young girl, and her journey towards trying to find her father.
Yeah, the last.
I know that's not the main episode. That's not the main thrust of the episode, but that's like the emotional core of the episode.
Yeah. It's the climax. It's how they close the episode. It's clearly important. They thought it was an important part of the story, right? And and the last story was like Stringfellow's son. You had to go see Stringfellow's son, and the first episode
named Stringfellow.
The first episode, the pilot, they had to establish that they got Airwolf and everything, but there was still like his brother was a major driving force in the action of that episode. Like,
totally. So. We're about to land there too, because when this dude, this like soldier buys the fact that Dom can't fix a helicopter, we actually have like a long shot of Dom coming around the helicopter, and there is Phoebe, and behind her is like a large pan on the ground that's like filled with stuff. Like, it's got some stuff in it. Do you notice the pan?
I noticed the
John?
pan when it comes up later. Right?
I noticed the pan there.
And this is a little unusual for me, not to sound like a bit of an arrogant, but I watch a lot of TV, so I'm very rarely sort of lost in a moment. But, like, there was a vagueness to the conversation between Phoebe and Dom in that moment where I thought for a moment he was suggesting she was going to stay on the ground behind as he flew away. And it just turned out he was explaining, like, she had a job that she had to do before they got away. And so I was a little bit like, wait, what? It became clear as we go forward. But we switched to Mitch waiting, and then Airwolf flying low. Right, we're getting excited,
and we're intercutting with
and now we intercut, and for the first time we see our buddies. We see Joaquin and crew laying out explosives in the ground in a couple locations, and
I have a problem with the
they're minors.
Geographic, like they jump in their Jeeps and they drive, and they're able to get to the spot, right, and dig up some stuff and like plant charges underground, and then Airwolf arrives. But like Airwolf like flew away before they even got in their Jeep. So this whole thing doesn't make sense. Like, maybe Airwolf was like circling around. He's like, we're going to give them an hour to get anyway. This is what it is.
That has to be how it works. The only issue is that seems like some irresponsible fuel consumption for a helicopter. But, okay, they get there. They set off the explosions. It's actually bait for the trapper guy, Mitch. We've hoisted him on his own petard, and he flies after the explosives. Our friends run away, so they're fine. And Airwolf swoops in and attacks the ground forces, right? He
takes them out.
And Shannon and Dom make their escape. Shannon throws the stuff in the fire to create a smoke screen, right?
Yeah, the guys are like shooting at them, but there's smoke in the way. The bullets don't go through the smoke. They bounce off the smoke. They get into the helicopter. They fly up, right?
Yep.
That's what smoke does. And
and now we have the copters versus. So Dom is up, and the copters versus Airwolf now. So we have the two copters versus Airwolf. 6 heat seeker missiles coming after Airwolf. They got hit. They got 2 leeches.
They expel some countermeasures, some charges. They're able to like take out 4 of the missiles. 2 of them hit. One of them goes right into the bay of the chamber of the guys, and its little nose like sticking out through like the wall of the copter. Chopper. And Archangel's like, oh god, and he's like, switch to the internal air and cycle the air in the thing, and he's like, oh, it's not responding, and Stringfellow's visor comes down, so now he's like in an air sealed helmet or whatever, so he's cool. Like, of course he's going to be cool. He's an Airwolf, right? And Archangel is like, I got my cane. It's like banging at the missile with the cane. Knocks the missile out of pushes it out with the cane.
Such a clever use of his cane. And in my notes, it says Airwolf smokes in all capitals with 3 exclamation points. The 2 copters, because it just all of a sudden, like, we were having like an interesting area battle, and then Talk is just like, it's time, and he turns, and Mitch gets to scream, and that's it. He's like, ah! And like, he doesn't even get a full scream. You're right. It's like, ah, and he's done. And then Airwolf does a flip after the 2 chopters have been exploded. He does the flip. I'm not exactly sure why.
The second chopper like evaporates. Like it literally. Like I wasn't sure if that was like the first one. Definitely seemed like they blew up a helicopter.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if is like financially feasible for a production to do, but
it's probably mostly stock, right? Like, and then we get the now becoming classical, like, Airwolf menacingly hovers next to a bad guy as if he's going to explode it, and then he just kind of like shows
inexplicably Arias shows up in a Jeep, like in full uniform.
Yeah, like just
like driving over there.
Jeep? It was like, I thought it was just like a car, like he's just like a convertible. Like there's no
roof, the top was down.
Yeah.
And like Airwolf is like hovering there. Like, what was he doing? Where was he going?
I don't know what his choices are.
Was he like going out to lunch and he's like, I'm just going to go drive by the captives, see what's going on? And of course, like Airwolf flies so close to him that it like kicks up a lot of dust, and he's like, he does a really good cough.
And we get to the last scene, which is actually quite sweet.
We're back at the lodge, the cabin,
the
museum, whatever it is.
Which I would like to, from now and going forth, call the Hawk's Nest. So we're at the Hawk's Nest.
Oh.
I like it. You can comment below, but I think I'm going to call it the Hawk's Nest no matter what you do.
We're at the Hawk's Nest.
We're at the Hawk's Nest. Shannon's in the dress. Shannon's in the red dress with the white lace trimming. She
comes out of the house wearing the dress. She's excited. There's a helicopter over the horizon, flying over the lake. No eagle in sight.
And then Shannon runs into the house, followed by Dom.
Right, and Dom and Stringfellow are standing there, and she runs past them and back into the nest. And Dom follows her in.
Yeah, and it's a sweet scene. Like she's looking at the picture she has of her parents, which we've seen previously when she told the story of her tragic life, and she looks scared. It's once again, I think it's really well performed. The material isn't like groundbreaking, but I think
but you know what, John? I think that this is like fairly mature writing, which is refreshing and nice because she brings it back to like a human emotion, which is I'm afraid. I'm scared.
And Dom really empathizes with her. Like it's really well handled, and his advice is, I think, really good because the way he calms her down is to explain that her dad is probably more scared than she is. Because she's afraid her dad won't like her, and Dom says, well, he's probably really scared you won't like him.
Right.
And it's really sweet.
It's nice. It's good advice. It progresses the story. We still don't know where this guy came from. This whole thing got tied up pretty quickly, but he's going to land. She's going to come outside. He's going to see her, and she's going to run into his warm embrace. And
we get the beautiful string music, and they run into each other's arms, and it's everything you expect this moment to be in I think a good way.
And of course, who brought Daddy home?
It
was Archangel and Laura. So they're now standing there too, and Shannon yells, Phoebe yells out, "Thanks, Dom," and this bothers.
And Archangel's like, "Thanks, Dom," and then he basically, I can think without words, it has Laura on Dom to explain all the work they did to find Dad and deliver him.
$50,000 of computer time was spent. That's what she said.
But then we show Hawk, who is...
He goes into the house.
Goes into the house. And he's looking at the picture with him and his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he's listening. You know as the audience, I think they imply that he can hear Laura talking about all the work they did to find this person.
Right.
A person, the same people who are theoretically supposed to be looking for his brother, or tried and failed to find his brother.
Yeah.
So he's listening to that. And then he also apparently can still, maybe the door's open, or you can see through the window, the father and daughter embracing lovingly. And it's a moment, right? Like, there's certainly, like, to me, this is saying, like, you know, I still haven't been given my closure.
Yeah, and there's a couple of holes here, right? Like he has a son now.
So that's our canon. That's not, the show conspicuously does not acknowledge that that's what's going on.
Fair. I mean, I have like hazel colored eyeballs. My wife has regular brown eyes, straight up brown eyes. We have 2 blue-eyed babies. I don't know.
See?
It's possible that an Asian woman and a brown-eyed man could have a
blonde, blue-haired child. It's certainly possible. It is genetically possible.
Well, who are you, Gregor Mendel? How do you know it's genetically possible?
Because I studied biology in college. I was going to be a doctor. I remember this stuff. It's possible.
Okay.
Well, it's possible depending on the ancestry of the 2 people involved.
Right.
That's fair. And the credits roll over the picture of the brother. And
yeah.
The episode ends.
Again, we're talking about a show that is a family drama.
Yeah.
We're talking about a family show, a show about a family or family dynamics that features very heavily an attack helicopter.
Well, currently that's how they're motivating the characters, right? Like,
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
They were motivated to save Gabrielle. He was motivated to save his not a son. He was motivated to save Dom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they brought that family back together. I mean, it's that and the awesome music cues when the cool helicopters flying around are my favorite parts of the show. I am sort of still getting goosebumps when that music hits because it's awesome. But it is one of the best.
It is one of the best theme songs of all time.
Yeah,
I love
the opening's cool. I was having a rough day when I watched this episode, and when the cue hit, man, I just got the biggest, dumbest smile on my face, and I was like, all right, the world ain't so bad. Let's go. Let's do this. So, well, what do you think, buddy? I think you did a better job that time.
I loved it, and we're talking about Airwolf. It's like,
yeah, we are.
It's pretty cool stuff.
All right, folks. I'm gonna need you to like and subscribe, and I'm gonna need you to share this wherever you have people that follow you, because we're awesome and people should watch us. I'm DorkLovesSports, also known as John, and this is one of my best buddies.
I'm Paul Bomba. Loving it. Thanks so much for checking us out.
Yep. And this was Airwolf to Rewolf. You guys have a great day.